Welcome to Daily Devotions. My name is Raymond Gregory, and right now we're going through the book of Romans. And today we'll be in Romans chapter 2, verses 17 to 29. I'll be reading from the New Living Translation. But now, a lot of people don't know this about me. And in fact, just last night, I was told this. Hey, you can eat anything and probably stay skinny, huh? Well, that is actually not the case. I used to be very, very heavy. And so I have this app called MyFitnessPal on my phone, and I think I've been logging for like 1,200 days or somewhere close to that. I log my food every day. I'm very careful about what I put in my body because I gain weight pretty easily, and I used to weigh 239 pounds, and people are usually shocked to hear that because now I weigh about between 145 and 150, depending on if the holidays are anywhere near. And so for the longest time, I was gaining weight and gaining weight and gaining weight. And every time I went to my doctor's, he would say the same thing. Hey, you're looking good. You need to lose weight. And then he'd send me to a nutritionist, and that nutritionist would say, you need to lose weight. But guess what? I didn't lose weight. And you know why? Because both my doctor and my nutritionist were both pretty overweight. And so I'm like, you have no effect on me. You're telling me I need to lose weight. Have you looked in the mirror? And so it just had really no effect on me. And so today we're going to get into a little bit of the topic of hypocrisy in a Devo I've titled, Don't Be a Fat Nutritionist. All right, again, we're going to look a little bit at the topic of hypocrisy, which is the non-believer's favorite thing about Christianity, I would say. So let's read in Romans 2:17 through 29, and rightfully so in some cases, in the New Living Translation. Here we go. You who call yourself Jews are relying on God's law, and you boast about your special relationship with Him. You know what He wants. You know what is right because you have been taught His law. You are convinced that you are a guide for the blind and a light to people who are lost in darkness. You think you can instruct the ignorant and teach children the ways of God. For you are certain God's law gives you complete knowledge and truth. Verse 21. Well then, if you teach others, why don't you teach yourself? You teach others not to steal, but do you steal? You say it is wrong to commit adultery, but do you commit adultery? You condemn idolatry, but do you use items stolen from pagan temples? You are so proud of knowing the law, but you dishonor God by breaking it. No wonder the scriptures say the Gentiles blaspheme the name of God because of you. Okay, so there's some strong language here written from Paul to the church there in Rome, and also to Jews. So let's look at this, and I want to just give 3 quick points about the dangers of hypocrisy, and then we're going to move on just a little bit about how we can remedy and avoid it. So number 1, it discourages other believers, right? It discourages other believers. Matthew 23:27 says, Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside you are full of bones of the dead and everything unclean. So basically, woe to you, teachers of the law, you are like whitewashed tombs. You are like an Instagram feed, right? Because on Instagram, we only like to post the best parts of our life. And the problem with that is most people tend to look at Instagram at the lowest point of their day. And so you are looking at the perfectly filtered, whitewashed, if you will, feed, and you're feeling inadequate because these things aren't reconciling to each other. Well, in the same way, it discourages other believers when you put on the filter and you always look like you're the most holy person, even though you are not. And so you are like a whitewashed tomb. You look beautiful from the outside, but you are full of bones of the dead and everything unclean. So that discourages other believers. So number one, discourages other believers. Number two, it dishonors God. In verse 23, it says, you are so proud of knowing the law, but you dishonor God by breaking it. And so that should be a reason enough not to be hypocrites, because we don't want to dishonor God. We want to love God with all of our heart, mind, soul, and strength. So, and then number three, it leads unbelievers away from God, which is very dangerous. Verse 24, no wonder the scriptures say the Gentiles blaspheme the name of God because of you. Now, one of the big things that inspired me to lose weight wasn't my nutritionist telling me I needed to lose weight. It wasn't my doctor, who was also overweight, telling me, hey, you need to lose weight. No. It was seeing how bad that extra weight looked, looking at photos of myself and going, wow, that can't be me. Or more specifically, there was a moment where I was watching an episode of The Simpsons where Homer wants to go on disability. And so he figures out that if he gets morbidly obese, he can work from home. And that's his big dream. He just has to walk downstairs, sit down at his desk, watch TV and all this kind of stuff, because Homer's the big fat slob, right? So he's trying to gain weight. And Homer's already the picture of the big fat slob. So he steps on the scale and he looks down, and the weight on the scale says 239 pounds. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I weigh as much as Homer Simpson. I got to go on a diet. And so I started to lose weight. I started making different, decisions in my nutrition and things. Now, in a Barna Group poll, the number 3 reasons over 85% of people cited hypocrisy for a reason for leaving the church. So, for instance, they saw another believer acting against what they were preaching, and they said, okay, well, obviously this has no effect. I'm leaving the church. And so in the same way, I looked at Homer and said, I do not want to be that way. I'm leaving this camp of being unhealthy. People will look at Christians who are hypocrites and say, well, I don't want to be like that guy. And so I'm going to reject what they've... Obviously, the gospel has no effect on him, so I don't want to be that way. So how do we avoid this? What are 3 ways, in light of this text, that we can avoid hypocrisy? Well, number 1, here's one. Don't use your shield as a sword. If you recall in Ephesians chapter 6, in addition to all of these, hold up the shield of faith to stop the fiery arrows of the devil. It's part of the armor of God, the shield of faith. But although some of us like to use our shield that is meant to protect us, we like to use it to hit others with it. Psalm 119:11, it says, I have hidden your word in my heart that I might not sin against you. Our faith, our shield, is first and foremost to protect us, to help us in our walk with the Lord. And so we need to remember that our faith isn't a badge, it's a shield. Verse 17, you who call yourselves Jews are relying on God's law, and you boast about your special relationship with him. Yeah, we need to grow in the word, in the knowledge of God's word for our own protection, but not to gain like some kind of superiority over other people or moral step up above others. It's to make ourselves better, and then to go and let that leak from our lives, and others will want to join in. So, number 1, don't use your shield as a sword. Number 2, don't use your sword to cut people down. Use it to cut sinners free. I'm going to say it again. Don't use your sword to cut people down. Use it to cut sinners free. John 8:31 says, Jesus said to the people who believed in him, you are truly my disciples if you remain faithful to my teachings, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Matthew 7:5. Hypocrite, first get rid of the log in your own eye, then you will see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye. And so don't use what was meant to build us up and set us free and set sinners free. Don't use it to cut other Christians down. And then number 3, We need to be loving more than we're legalistic. And so in verse 25, it says this: the Jewish ceremony of circumcision has value only if you obey God's law. But if you don't obey God's law, you are no better than the uncircumcised Gentile. And if the Gentiles obey God's law, won't God declare them to be his own people? In fact, uncircumcised Gentiles who keep God's law will condemn you Jews who are circumcised and possess God's law but don't obey it. For if you are not a Jew, you are for you are not a true Jew just because you were born of Jewish parents or because you have gone through the ceremony of circumcision. No, a true Jew is one whose heart is right with God. And a person with a changed heart seeks praise from God and not other people. So a lot of people will look at church and go, man, it's just a big set of rules. It's just a bunch of legalism. It's don't do this and don't. And it's like, I don't know how I'm going to keep all this stuff straight. Well, we need to know that those laws are in place for our better. God loves us enough to give us the guidelines for life and on how to live. But if we take those laws and let ourselves become super legalistic and start pointing fingers at other people and say, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that, blah, 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 blah. If it looks like just a big rule book, then people are going to know one day, hey, that guy broke the rules and now he's telling me I can't break the rules. It's like, so we need to operate out of love more than we operate out of legalism. Otherwise, all hipsters and youth pastors are going to hell. You know how I know this? Because in Leviticus 19:27, it says, do not trim the hair off the sides of your temples or trim your beards. So all youth pastors, worship leaders, hipsters, people with beards, all going to hell. If you are legalistic. That's kind of a joke, but okay. Jesus didn't say, clean up your life, then follow me. He said, follow me and I'll clean up your life. And so, to recap, the dangers of hypocrisy. Number 1, it discourages other believers. Number 2, it dishonors God. Number 3, it leads unbelievers away from God. And then 3 ways to avoid the dangers of hypocrisy. Don't use your shield as a sword, because it's there to protect you. I've hidden your word in my heart that I might not sin against you. Your faith isn't a badge, it's a shield. Number 2, don't use your sword to cut people down. Use it to cut sinners free. Jesus said to his people who believed in him, you are truly my disciples if you remain faithful to my teachings, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And then number 3, be loving more than you are legalistic. Otherwise, hipsters are doomed. So, all that to say, don't be a fat nutritionist. Instead, take me out for a delicious salad. That is what I have for you today. And I love you guys. And if you have any prayer requests, you can send them to Raymond@raymondgregory.com. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Maybe share it with some friends. And if you didn't like this video, give it a thumbs down. And I'll call you hypocrite. No, I'm kidding. And then maybe shoot me a comment and let me know if you have any questions or how this video ministered to you. So I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow in the next video.